Hey Brian, let's take a look at this week one assignment 4 drawing, and I think what we have in place here is you've got some good solid use of the materials, and you're hitting on the topics. You're hitting on the topics of the assignment well. You're especially the bottom one, that the marker only one, where you're really trying to use your different grays and overlapping the markers to create, a three-dimensional shape and a lighting situation. A couple of things, and I'm really glad that you've kind of given us this information, is that the 70% looks great, the 60% looks great, and the 40% look great, but I almost think you don't need the 40% over top of it. I think you can just leave the blue the way that it is from its initial layer, and that will, I think, hopefully get a little bit more contrast between these two sides of the cube, and also more from this side, obviously, but I think more importantly these two sides, because they feel a little similar in a few areas, and I think getting them to separate a bit more would help. I think in general, what I think works best is having kind of the original color be the lightest, because you can't really make a marker lighter. You can blind it, which is going to make it lighter, but if you side to side everything, it's just going to be what it is. So then layering over with a 40, and then layering over with kind of a 60, 70, or 80. If you have a 70, that's terrific, but usually a 60 or an 80. But getting a good 20%, 40% between each of the values is kind of a good way to go with things. So if this one is going to be 0, this one's going to be 40, and this one's going to be 60 to 80, it's kind of a good separation between the three. But I thought you did a good job with it overall. It really does feel like you have some distinct sides to the cube. Cube itself in both cases are well rendered. The perspective feels very good. It's receding back very consistently, and it feels well kind of measured out and plotted. Definitely still seeing some edge issues, especially in that second layer with the grays, where I'm seeing a lot of that kind of breaking through, which you'll get better at. But it's something to put at the top of your list on things to keep an eye on. The colored pencil one, we've still got a few edge quality issues down below. Pretty good on the top though. The colored pencil, I feel like you could work a little bit more consistently. So we shouldn't really be seeing quite as many strokes, and maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I think a little bit more importantly would be trying to get it to be more consistent. I feel like we've got kind of a darker area of colored pencil, a very light area of colored pencil, and then kind of this darker area here, a lighter area here. I can pick out these little spots where I see things going from different value to different value, and just having it be more even all the way around will help. I think also trying to get more dramatic difference in the value. If you have a black and a dark green, I would say first layer in a dark green over top of the green that you have. That way your kind of first initial layering of the colored pencil is going to kind of match what's there already, but it'll just kind of help to accentuate that darker value. And if that's not enough, and you really want it to be different, you really want to have a nice contrasting difference between each of the sides, then I would go in with a very light layer of black. Shouldn't be pushing too hard, and you should be going fairly slowly so that you get a nice even coverage. Mark making is not that big of a deal to me. You're drawing with a pencil, and a pencil is a tool, and a tool makes marks, so I'm actually okay with that. But if it starts to be very inconsistent and it starts to make a texture when you don't want a texture, I think that's when it becomes a problem. But I think a dark green and a black would really help here, and I think white, just straight up white over top of the green, would help for the lighter value side. And then the middle you can just kind of leave alone and save yourself that time. But I think you need to have better distinction between the sides, and I think you need to have a little bit more even coverage with the colored pencil on this cube.